I wish you guys the best with your Yum Yum podcast.
Yum, yum.
Hello, Rachel.
Hello, Ryan.
How are you doing?
I am doing well. How about you?
I feel like I have the world in my hands, Rachel. That's how I'm feeling. Everything is...
not just a moon, the whole world.
The moons are there too. If you angle it just right, all of them can fit into the palm of my hand. But I am feeling spectacular because I'm back here with you talking about an episode of science fiction television.
Thank you.
And we are here today to talk about an episode of the Sci-Fi Channel series Killjoys. I am coming at this from the rewatch perspective, and Rachel?
I'm a newbie. I have not watched Killjoys before. And we are up to a very big episode of this show. It gives me answers that I wasn't expecting to get, possibly at all, let alone this season. Here they are in The Wolf You Feed.
Oh, it just rolled off the tongue just like that. The Wolf You Feed, episode 7 of season 3. And Rachel, you have a perfect description for us.
Oh no, I wouldn't say that, because I came up with this one. We don't even use the IMDb ones. And we have DVDs, Blu-rays of Killjoys, but sadly they did not come with a little booklet that gives cute little descriptions.
Long gone are those days, Rachel. Long gone are those days.
Yep. So we have to...
We're even lucky if we get menus in Blu-rays now. Sometimes they just start.
Our trio is divided yet united on their adventures. But you won't believe what reveals come.
Meanwhile, Turin commits war crimes. I want to just say this up front for all of the people out there that are listening. We appreciate you coming here and giving us your time. It is very valuable to us because we are on a brave adventure. We are not only just going through the series of Killjoys, but we've gone through so many different science fiction shows, and it all started with the namesake of the podcast, Yum Yum. That was a line of dialogue from Star Trek Discovery. It was an absurd line, a crazy line, something that made us raise our eyebrows and say, "What was that?" But it was incredibly funny as well. And we like to look at what was the funny moment in a Killjoys episode, what made us have a good hearty laugh. And you can even see what tickled our funny bones in our reactions, because we do record our reactions to watching these episodes. Rachel, her jaw hit the floor several points with this particular one. But what was the thing that made you laugh, Rachel?
I love you, but you don't get to shoot me twice. I really love that line. There's a line at the end of the episode that Johnny says to Dutch after she shoots him. Luckily, he was wearing a bulletproof vest.
It wasn't her fault. She was in between realities at the time. R1 and her memoryscape.
Mm-hmm.
Who hasn't been there?
Quite a few people. Myself included.
I beg to differ with you, Rachel.
Oh, okay.
I have a line, not only the funny line of this episode, but I think it's of the season. I'll be surprised if they give us one better than this. And you know what it is.
Yeah, I know what it is. It's one of those ones where it's just like, well, I need to give something else.
Because it's too good?
Yeah.
This is the equivalent of Yum Yum. This is the equivalent...
It's a defining moment of the show.
This is the equivalent of, in season 1, Dutch saying meow. in reply to if she likes catwalks. It's a Davin line in this episode. And it is him saying that he is not the tit whisperer. Do I need to provide context?
No.
No, because there's no context really in the episode. It was a funny line that they threw out there, and the actor who plays Davin, Luke McFarlane, gave it with absolute vigor, and it was very, very good. And it's such an absurd thing that it encapsulates this series in a nutshell, and that's what I loved about it.
It was a thing of beauty. And you know what is also beautiful about this show? Their love of the word bitch. Ryan, how many lines met your criteria and are included in the bitch count for this episode?
We love to make sure to track this. It is such a fascinating quirk of this show. And before I even give us the number in this episode, because it is a high number, I just want to know, how do you feel about this? Like, how do you feel about this trait in the series itself? Do you find it endearing at this point, or is it just annoying, or how do you feel?
I still very much like it. It hasn't crossed a line for me. It's still fun. Because even when they play it like we're saying bitch so we can say bitch, it's still fun. It works with the show.
I ask this because we are also currently covering Starfleet Academy, the Star Trek series. And Star Trek being a big franchise, of course, a long-running thing, was coming back into TV around the time of this season of Killjoys. 2017 was when, I'm pretty sure, Discovery started. And one of the big sticking points, and I do feel like it's been a big sticking point with not just this, with Star Trek, but with other shows, is the kind of modern vernacular and sweariness being thrown in. It's like, ooh, it's too juvenile, or it doesn't feel right. And that's definitely the case for some shows, I feel, like with Star Trek. It does stick out like a sore thumb a bit at times. But with Killjoys, it's part and parcel, and I think it breeds so much humor into the show, and heart as well. Like, they're not upper crusty characters. These are like lowbrow characters. Hence, we get bitch said 5 times in this episode by several different characters, and not just one person dropping them. It's practically everyone in the cast is getting their shot at it. But
you get a bitch, and you get a bitch,
and you get a bitch. But what you don't get, Rachel, is your coveted hit in the genitals.
Nah, 14 episodes and counting. Since we got a nut shot, let's move on.
Real question, Rachel. I know you want to move on, but do you think we'll ever get it again?
Yes, but I think we'll have at least one more nut shot in this show. Maybe I dare to dream of a cunt punt.
We all say that late at night. We clasp our hands together and pray to Michelle Lovretta, the creator of Killjoys. When, oh when, Michelle, when will we get a cunt punt in Killjoys? Will it be the series finale itself? Is that the final shot? Oops! Spoilers! Spoilers! Did I just give it away?
You would never be so careless.
I would never be so careless, but I would be that cunty. I want to just say this as well. Mentioning Michelle Lovretta, I was genuinely shocked.
That it wasn't her writing this episode?
Genuinely shocked that she was not the writer of this episode. And then doubly shocked, triply, quadruply, 10 times shocked that this is a new writer. This is someone who hasn't written for the show before.
It feels like a huge thing to trust with a newbie.
And unlike with some of the other newbies, they're not a script editor or story editor. They've had no other experience in this show except for being a consulting producer. And they've only started that in season 3, which is just mind-boggling, because when we were watching this, because it's such a monumental episode, I just assumed, naturally, Michelle was in charge, or Adam Barkin was in charge of this episode. But did you feel that? Or did you think otherwise?
Because it didn't feel that breakneck pace that I associate with a Love Rudder one. So I was like, it's not her.
And it wasn't as genre-y as
Yeah.
Adam McBarkin scripts.
Yeah, it wasn't
tend to
playing
lean
into
in.
one thing specifically enough for it to feel like a Barkin.
So the new writer we have here has a name that's very fun to say, and I will mispronounce it because I don't know how to say either of these names. So we got to, how would we do this? It's a Nicoline, but with a J thrown in just to give you a good old
But is it a
curveball.
J sound or a Y sound?
That's a great question. Nikki, write in. And then her last
Cop
name.
out.
Write in, Nikki. Write in. And then her last name is Trobotsko? I don't know. It's something fun. And we also have our good old Polish director back. Stefan is back in the director's chair. But anything you want to say about this writer in terms of her background, her career, or her style?
I think she did an amazing job with this episode because there is a lot going on. And it doesn't draw attention to the fact that it's somebody new. It fits within the world of Killjoys so well. And I kind of like that they have trusted them with such a heavy episode.
I hear I have you to thank for holding this place together.
People need a leader, Dutch. Thought that's what you wanted.
I needed to find out what was in Anila's head.
By lying to us, taking off, and putting yourself at risk. No, you didn't.
Are you angry with me?
I'm worried.
As a writer, her background is much smaller in terms of her catalogue of work, only 10 writing credits. Orphan Black is the one of note the most. She did half a dozen episodes of that. But the thing that I actually found very interesting was she worked on this sitcom called Call Me Fitz, which she only did for 3 episodes, but it's an interesting premise for a show in which a sleazy car salesman gets into an accident, and then when he wakes up, he is pestered by a man who claims to be the embodiment of his
His consciousness? Conscience?
Yes. And it's a question of, is it actually or is it not? And that seems like a fun idea for a
Yeah, it
sitcom.
does.
And one of the main characters in that show, I recognized his face, is played by the boss from Reaper, the annoying, sleazy, dorky boss. And I was like, oh yeah, you would be great in a show like this.
Yeah.
He's just one of the secondary characters, but he's one of the leadings in it. So I thought that was interesting. But I wanted to know how she got involved in this show, considering her work is very small. And she only just started being a consulting producer. And the answer is...
Nepotism?
Yes. How do you know? What did you find out?
I didn't find out anything. That was just my guess.
Her
Like, I didn't. I looked over her thing and I was like, oh, that's not too many. Oh, okay. She's known for this and this and this. Okay.
I recognized this last name. I recognized it because it's in every episode. Her sister Karen is one of the main producers of the entire show.
Oh.
She's not a writer. She's just a producer. She does some additional other kind of background stuff, but she's a producer. She produces pretty much
But
the
that
entirety
would've-
of the series.
That would have been Nikki's lead.
That would have been her lead-in. And Nikki will go on to write 2 more episodes, so 3 in total, so 1 in each season coming up. So we will keep an eye out for her name in the future. Let's get into this episode. Everyone, please make sure to give this a watch as well, because this is a big hitter. If you're coming into this podcast and you're watching along with us, but you haven't had the chance to catch this episode, or you're rewatching, but it's been like you've seen the show, but it's been a while, this is one of those turning point episodes, and we really want you to experience it and then come
And
back.
obviously, this episode is going to be full of spoilers.
Of course, even though this show's older, this is just one of those ones where, as you said, Rachel, it gives you answers to questions you thought you weren't going to get. But I also just want to highlight and stress very much, this episode, in my opinion, is not only just reveals and exposition. That is what I have to say. But Rachel, what did you think about The Wolf You Feed?
I fucking loved it. It was an amazingly done episode. It really let the actors and the characters shine, and did so in a way that made both elements better. longtime listeners would have heard me sing the praises of episodes that are greater than the sum of their parts. And for me, this episode is one. And that's extra impressive considering how huge some of these things are.
And we have so many scenes that are just downtime. So many scenes that, you could cut them out and make it leaner and meaner, but it helps it. Garrett appears in this episode.
Talking about puppies!
In the same episode where we reveal why Dutch looks like a kneeler. And, that's just, confounding, but it all works together. Everything slots into place. Nothing in this episode felt like it shouldn't be here or that it was intruding upon the narrative. And, of course, I loved this episode because we finally get to talk about some of these things that have been hidden from us or been hinted at through the show.
But you've known the whole time that we've been watching.
But selfishly, I feel at this point why I love this episode too is this is the episode this season that's given us the most to chew on in terms of Klein. Klein is a character that
I love how important he has continued to be in death.
Yes, exactly. And upon this rewatch, for me, Klein has been the biggest shakeup in terms of my experience because when I first watched the show, I thought he was fine. He didn't tickle my fancy as much as other characters in the story, but looking at him again and seeing all the pieces and seeing how the character is portrayed by the actor and how these memories portray him as well, man, every time we've had him in the show, there's always something there, but this is the episode this season, since he's gone now, we get to dive into all of that because we're going into the past and seeing what he looks like from someone else's point of view, not from his own point of view, which is very different. But before we chew into that and dive in fully there, how about we just go into how the episode was structured, which was each character of Team Awesome Force gets their own adventure, their own mission.
It's like Johnny is working on this thing, Davin's working on this thing, and Dutch is working on this thing. And all of them are important and interconnected. So, they're working as a team, but they've each got their roles. And I appreciated that it was done in this sort of way, coming off an episode where it was like the door went down and now we're separated into two groups kind of way to divvy up stories.
Because even though that episode was fun, it felt much more low stakes for why they were separated off. This is much more high stakes, and each stake is an interesting tale to tell. Johnny, he has to figure out how to get these ships to fly, these Black Root ships that have been left over, because there's some weird alien stuff going on.
And then how to find Lucy later on.
And then he has to go find Lucy because Dutch, as we saw at the end of last episode, has run off with Zeph to explore these potential memories from Anila. And Davin is left in the lurch. He has to rally all of these people together under Dutch's banner without Dutch being there. And what does that look like for him as a character? How does he cope with that? And then, of course, Dutch's story, the namesake of the episode too, the Woof You Feed, is all about her reconciling the past. Each one of these are juicy to think about. And
there was a cohesiveness to it. And the reasons why each of these characters had these plots is so grounded in who they are, what they're doing, what they're working towards. And yet it's in their wheelhouse, but also a challenge. Yeah, Johnny is the tech guy. So it makes sense that he's the one that's trying to figure out how to use these ships. And they have these ships at their disposal that they don't understand, but are needed to fight in this war. Then Davin's stuff of being a leader but trying to get people to rally behind Dutch because they signed on because of her. But her not being there and him trying to strike a balance between getting shit done and also not becoming the general, because it's like, well, that's not my job. And he still has that soldier mindset by default. And then you have Dutch's stuff of it dealing with that emotional vulnerability, but her desire to understand herself and the war that she is raging and her battle against Anila. And all of these things are important, but they're different types of important. They're different types of important and different reasons for why they are significant. So you don't get tired of it moving forward because it's doing things in different ways with all of these plots.
And on a thematic level, at the end of it all, it ties together. Because each story and each character in this episode, it is about the exploration of why are they fighting this war? What are they fighting for and why are they fighting?
I've seen veterans get cold feet and newbies save the day. No soldier comes with a guarantee. All we can ask for is their loyalty. So do we have yours?
The Freean have returned, those freedom fighters, but Lachlan isn't here. They sent a guy that looks almost identical to the guy who played Lachlan to a confusing degree. They had other people in the previous episode that did not look like Lachlan.
No.
So they could have sent someone who didn't look identical to that actor.
I was confused, and then I was like, why are you talking in the third person?
But it isn't him.
It's not him.
I've been a little bit frustrated that so many episodes end this season with them winning favor of some random faction of the week, and it's very overtly like, we will be there for the fight when you need us.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I'm waiting for the penultimate episode when you come and we fight, and then we go into the finale. But it was kind of a nice change of pace that we had a bunch of them in this episode, and the Freean need further reassurance, which at first I was like, okay, we're going to reassure them more, but it led to a very good story.
Yeah. It was satisfying. It didn't feel like we're doing this for the drama, but they're playing into those aspects of this plot still. It's not just there for that purpose, but they use it effectively.
Nothing will top, in my opinion, in science fiction, Babylon 5 for politics, for space sci-fi politics. That's the GOAT. And we have struggled with Star Trek, Discovery and Picard and Strange New Worlds, and especially currently the Academy show, for their like childlike version of politics that like kind of hit a thing like, let's do a negotiation and you got to prove your worth to me. And I think Killjoys hits right in the middle. Like, it's not the most thought-provoking thing, but on a gut level, I felt it. I followed it, and when he won favor of not just these warriors, but of the monks and of the other RAC members at the end of this episode, it not only satisfied me on that gut emotional level, but I bought it. I was like, yes, this is where this episode was heading towards, and it landed.
It earns it. It earns that moment of my captain energy.
we have mentioned him a couple of times, but Garrett being the replacement for Pre at the moment. I asked you during our reaction if you were okay with that, and you seem pretty ecstatic of like, hey, I'm fine if Pre's not in the bar, we have another regular character, and we like Garrett.
Mm-hmm.
And
I don't want him to fully replace Pre.
Of course not.
But you know, he can sub in occasionally.
He's an extension of Pre. That's how he's treated.
You didn't like my pun?
Yeah, well, yeah. I didn't appreciate your pun. I'm not a punsman, but I do appreciate what you said. But Garrett, big, muscly teddy bear of a man. He loves puppies. He loves cuddles. He loves cuddles with puppies. He just says this, and it's lol random humor, but neither of us groaned in agony over it. And
it's quick.
That's the key.
Yeah,
real quick.
It doesn't linger in the awkward moment. It's like, oh, okay, that happened. And then they continue with their conversation about the other things.
In comparison to like several of the shows that we talk about on our podcast, the humor like that usually irritates us works so often in this show because Killjoys has comedy be a genre high up in its DNA. Like, Sci-Fi up there, comedy right next to it. And so they have an absurdist, very juvenile, silly sense of humor. The sense of humor is like never clever. Like, I never come into Killjoys being like, oh, this is a really like smart comedy show. Like, no, the comedy is always like stupid. And I say that in a complimentary way, like stupid said with a smile on my face. Like, it's stupid.
Yeah.
And it's a stupid thing, but it's a piece of insight on the character. It tells us something about this character. Stupidly, but it does.
It reminded me of a story of yours. So Ryan has told me this story many times, and other people this story, and it is a sweet, sad, odd sort of story, which is...
I can't wait to hear it.
But, like, because this moment with Garrett reminded me of this, I felt like I got more out of that moment than maybe I was meant to.
Well, that's art.
Yeah.
You bring your own stuff to it.
Which is the story of one of your teachers who had anger management problems.
Oh, yes. My PE teacher.
Mm-hmm. Would you like
career to have anger management problems in?
Yeah. Would you like to tell the story yourself now that you know which one I'm talking about?
He was awesome. I love that guy. He was one of my favorites, and he had anger management issues, and he worked on them like properly. And one of his techniques that he had was in his wallet, there was a picture of 2 puppies. And he would channel all of his love and hope and happiness onto one puppy and all of his anger and negativity onto the other puppy.
And that also works with the ongoing wolf analogy of this episode.
It does. And then my sister, who's several years older than me, asked him, we both asked him separate questions about the puppy. I can't remember the puppies. I can't remember which one asked which thing, but one of us asked... which puppy's which? And he said,
They know,
which is a great question. And I think one of us asked, do they have names? And he said, oh, they have names. And that was the end of that answer. And so, yes, that it's actually interesting because the more you say it, like, yeah, that is something that actually connects to this episode, the 2 wolves and these dogs and this idea of like good and evil embodiment
I find
these
it
things
really
that we put them
amusing
upon.
that I thought of your story and you didn't connect.
That's marriage. That's marriage. That's why people come to this podcast, because a part of marriage is remembering the other person's life.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Ryan, you remember that story? And I'm like, oh, yeah, that story. I haven't thought about that right now. Or I go, Rachel, when this happened, I thought of you when this thing happened in your life. And then you sweat profusely and wipe your brow and go, oh, don't mention that.
Oh, I hate when you do that.
Oh, it's fun for me. But
oh, you get so much joy out of it?
Not as much joy as Zeph outsmarting Johnny.
Oh. of her in that little hologram display thing being like, eat shit, Jacoby.
I out-Jacobied you, Jacoby. You got zeffed.
Yeah.
You got zeffed.
And him having that moment of like, yeah, you did. But then, like, I really appreciated during those moments that are sprinkled in kind of in the second half of this episode, I think, of Johnny dealing with the stuff that Zeph's put in place, of his sort of mini arc that happens within those couple of moments of being presented with the problem, dealing with it. Because in the open, he's like, oh yeah, I did get outsmarted. But then he pulls a move that only he can, which is recognizing Zeph's strengths.
And arrogance.
And using that to solve the problem so much faster. And how that aspects, even though those are scenes with him on his own.
Talking aloud.
Mm-hmm. Which can be so annoying or boring, particularly in sci-fi.
Unbelievable.
But those are highlighting the differences between those characters, giving them both character development, and highlighting why Johnny still has a place on the team. He cannot be replaced, and his experience should not be underestimated in terms of how much of an asset it is for the team, for him, and for this fighting this war.
He is the heart, and he is the super best friend, and
twin powers.
But
activate.
You struck on something so important about this episode. It started off a little bit rough with technobabble, exposition. We got to lay out how this works, like how the stuff with Dutch works,
and two pilots memories. Dying that we've never met before. But how they feel the weight of it,
how the ships work, and all of that. But before you know it, all of the technobabble and all of this stuff that can really drag things down and halt the pace. Because how many times, people, have you watched a sci-fi show and a scene's just happening and its characters saying a bunch of just jargon because you have to solve the plot, but you're not actually invested in it. You're not actually caring about it. You just go through the motions of it because that's what you do.
Yeah.
That's what these shows do.
Yeah.
And this show has been guilty of it, but what this episode really, really nailed was everything you were just saying, because it's insightful, it's characterful, it's humorous, and there's just nice things, like the way he solves the crisis is clever, but there's also the dramatic irony of he solves it by being like, okay, I'm Zeph, and like he goes through all the reasons, like I'm an arrogant, son of a bitch, and blah, 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 blah.
Bio lover
and all of that, and then in so doing, he's highlighting that he is like that too, but he doesn't recognize that about himself. He's just like, nerd. And he's like, you are this, but you are a mechanical one. She's a bio nerd. Like, these are very different.
But
they're not that
he doesn't
different.
know analog.
Yes, he doesn't know analog, but she does. But I loved all of that because that's how you should handle this type of material. You should make it insightful. You should make it feel like this is an extension of the character rather than the script bending over backwards to fill in the problem. Yes, make it multi-purpose. Make it something that's actually enjoyable to watch because we've covered so many sci-fi shows that do that. That's why, again, one of the other things I loved about Babylon 5 was Babylon 5 really didn't have a lot of techno-babble in it. Really didn't have a lot of it. It was a lot of just characters talking about like their inner turmoils and getting through the problems in diplomacy. This show has to spin so many plates, and one of them is techno stuff because now two of the main characters are geniuses in terms of this sci-fi stuff, and yet it doesn't feel like we're doubling up on the lesser elements of other sci-fi shows.
You gave her the options and told her the risks. That's our job. And she decided to take it because that's hers. And you pulled a Jacoby special.
What?
You disobeyed her just enough to keep Dutch safe. You stole my move.
we both really appreciated how Turin sends Davin to go talk to Fancy.
Can't do it himself. He fucked it up.
Yeah, and we know that.
Yep.
So it doesn't set off any red flags that Turin does that. Feels very natural. We've seen him do shit like that a bunch. So it helps the latter half of this plot pay off big time. But we'll get there. So Davin goes talks to Fancy. They're having a bare knuckle street fight boxing match.
They got to feel something.
Yep. Do you think it's between two cleansed?
It feels that way, yeah.
Yeah. Me too, but we didn't comment on that. I
can't recall if the person he talks to later in the episode was the one he was
Yeah.
fighting. I'd have to go back and see.
Mm-hmm. But I wouldn't put it past them for doing that attention to detail. But Davin goes to Fancy, they have a chat, and Fancy's like, okay, if you want my help, I want to know that you've got my back. Basically, if we are going to go in on this with you, I'm here as a representative of the cleansed. If you want us on your team, you need to have our back.
Mm.
And Davin commits to that. And I thought that most of the episode was going to be him having to try and convince Fancy to get back on board. But this is another example of how this episode chooses to do a more interesting thing. It chooses better than I predicted, which is another reason why this episode is awesome.
And the thing it chooses is fucking nasty and brutal as well.
Yes, because we find out that Turin was using Davin as a trap to get all of the cleansed together and use them by force to pilot the ships. Because that's what Fancy explains, how these ships are designed to work.
They're for Hullans.
Yeah, they aren't designed, like, if they're all together, they aren't piloted individually.
They fly like a
Which
swarm of bees.
lines up exactly with the problems that they encountered at the start of the episode. And it answers a question that I had, which was, okay, why have they skipped trying it with one pilot?
Mm-hmm.
Because we jump in and they're using two.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, it feels stupid to do a trial run with two pilots.
Mm-hmm.
But
They've technically done one already with with Davin, with his individual ship.
But they have these gloves that have like Davin's DNA spliced into them so that these humans can use the controls. But that also paired with the stuff that Fancy says, it's like, oh, okay, so Davin isn't straight human anymore, and
he's special in some way.
Yeah, we know that he's special in some way, and we know that he was special before Klein put any goo in him.
So that activated something.
But yeah, it has added something to him. So it's like, okay, so he was somehow connected to the Hullen and affected before he encountered the goo.
The military test
Which
that
is,
happened to him was
yeah,
the key to that.
is
That's
that-
how Klein cracked
yeah.
the poison that kills them.
Yeah. So it's weaving in these other things that are going to lead to more answers later. So, but I felt the heaviness of that line of being like, oh, I think that's going to be something more later.
And the mystery of Davin's abilities and powers with this stuff is also the same as the mysteries of Anila's abilities and powers with the Hullen as well, because Klein doesn't know. He didn't know why she was special, and no one knows why Davin is special, including Anila. So that even adds to this sense of not just mystery, of course, but awe of things like, are they playing with things that they don't understand in a bigger, grander way? Exactly. So then when you have experts on it, or people with insight, like Fancy and the Cleansed, you should probably pay attention to that, and they're willing to help as long as they get the bare minimum, which is fucking respect or rights, or to be treated as equals. And Davin, thinks that they can do that. He doesn't see a problem with that. He is not an idiot. And then Turin pulls the trigger, and it was all a trap. It was all a thing because he is a suspicious, prideful bigot who needs them to do it by force because they will rise up against us.
Which makes sense. And it doesn't feel like it's just, that captain made that comment last episode and now Turin's turned around against the Cleanse. It's like, no, this is within him already. He already didn't trust Fancy.
Well, no, he did trust Fancy. A line that was super, super cutting in Attack the Rack, where we had the turn from Turin himself, is he does trust Fancy. He believes in Fancy because he is, and as I quote, one of the good ones. And he uses that again in this episode. He says, you are one of the good ones. They're like, we can't trust these others because they're not the good ones.
Yeah.
And I wanted to just tap on that because it is super important, because the Hullen are the enemy, right? They're the Sci-Fi enemy. Then we have the Cleansed, which is them, the people now taken out of the Hullen. And what the show has done is, and I don't know how to say this more tactfully, but they've made it a racial allegory. Like, the reaction to them feels very much racially encoded. It is the Sci-Fi, racism allegory thing, like we had with the tanks in Space Above and Beyond is a great example, in which they're us, but also they're not us. We can't trust them. Hence the phrase, you're one of the good ones, has a certain ring to it. And I personally felt like the way that this episode was handled, especially in some of the visual language and the terminology used, and also just having Fancy Lee, who's played by an Asian man, be the face of this group as well, of people who are being oppressed by the government, or like the authority figures, I should say, has a certain... And
who have been collected basically into an internment camp.
Yes. It has a certain punch to it.
Yeah, the idea of this being a sort of camp that the Cleansed have been herded into, even though Turin refers, like, they're in the brig, definitely came to mind when I was watching this episode with you.
The scene of them witnessing the Cleansed being dragged out of their houses, I said, oh yes, this feels very much like the Gestapo coming in and dragging out the people. But like with any image like this, it's something that recurs. It's something that is ongoing, sadly. And, it's this show, this episode itself is about 8 years old, 7 years old. And, we look at it in the current lens we are, and that imagery, sadly, is something we see in the news quite frequently, especially over in the US currently. And so this hits extra hard. So when Turin reveals all of the reasons he's doing this for, and the classic, like, being called out as a war criminal, and you're using all the rhetoric we've heard in history, and he says, well, sometimes it's right.
And it feels like this show and our conversation is about the morality of that, not the politics of that. And I think that that's an important and interesting distinction that the show and we should make.
because the characters refuse it. Because Turin's trying to argue this as a wise tactical move and as something to think about. But
I pulled the trigger when nobody else would.
And they would betray us otherwise, and we have to think about how we can win this war, my war. And that's where things get extra dirty and filthy.
Yeah.
Is he makes it about himself.
Yes.
He is the hero. He's the one that does this.
But that is also what Dutch has been doing.
Yeah, for her own reasons, like her own personal
she's been
revenge.
doing that for her own reasons. And that is another reason why Davin is the better choice to lead this war, because he hasn't done that. It's not about him.
If we turn on one another, we have nothing.
Oh, I hope this is a pissing contest, because I feel hydrated as shit. Or is it just plain mutiny?
This was never your army.
Oh, because it's hers, right? Okay. Where is the mighty Dutch right now? We're all fighting this war, Davin. The only person Dutch is fighting is Anila, and she will risk all of us to do it. That's not what any of us signed up for.
Well, they didn't sign up for you either.
The thing I think we need to also say as well with Turin is it's something that makes sense for him.
Yes.
But does that make it easier and better for what he has been in this season? We have had Turin as our enemy number one in this season of how frustrating of a character he's been. But does this turn things around? Does this recontextualize things of this season?
Yes and no. Because it feels like a natural build-up of Turin's character. It feels natural in that way, but it also does feel like this season is continually leaning on there being rats or something rotten within their organization, so that they have something internally that they're fighting against, as well as the external things.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, it feels like a very practical decision when you think about it from that point of view. But it still ends up working on me because they've done the work with Turin and they've done the work with the world. So it doesn't feel like they need somebody, or, oh yeah, Turin was always a bad guy. It's like Turin always had this within him.
He's been much more militant this season. When I say
he's scared.
He's scared, yeah.
And that is affecting his decisions. And he does this out of fear. And he admits as much. And that makes it more interesting.
And he tries to pull rank, even though what is there now? What is the rack? Does it exist? Or have we moved beyond it?
It's broken.
We're now a coalition of forces together. So he can't pull I'm the highest ranked officer here because
the warrant is that's gone.
And that only applied for the Killjoys. Doesn't apply for the monks.
No.
Doesn't apply for the freedom fighters. It doesn't apply for, or any of these other characters. Like, it only applied to him. And we've been having a bit of a back and forth about this on and off the pod, but like, what are these characters fighting for? And with Turin, he's been a big example of that because he believes in the rack.
Yeah.
He's always believed in the rack. He's had issues.
He wants to cleanse the ranks and get the rack back.
Because it works in his eyes. But in the current climate of how the world works, the rack no longer is relevant or no longer exists. And also, he's not doing his job as a member of the rack. He is now fighting a war. That's different to getting warrants. But he hasn't reconciled those differences, and so it leads him to this. I'm still mixed. I've still found Turin very annoying throughout this season for writing reasons. And I think this reveal
even
could have
last
been
season we had problems with him.
Yes.
When he turns up just to get stabbed. Ugh.
In the first season, yeah. Or like in this season, yes. you can see the breadcrumbs, you can see how this leads to this, and so it will make it interesting to think back on and see how they handle him going forward.
Whether or not Turin's turn works, I think it cannot be argued that the revelations about Dutch and Anila do work.
This is what the episode's really about.
Yeah, this is the core of this episode. Like, the title refers specifically to Anila and Dutch and Anila's journey with herself, because we find out that Dutch is her, sort of.
Before we get to that, let's walk through Anila's life, what we understand of it. And I want to hear from you because, you're the newcomer and you...
I assume that was you asking me for a mini recap of this plot in this episode.
And for your impressions of it along the way, because it's one thing just to say, like, Anila was a child, but, like, I want to hear from you about Anila's life and your thoughts and feelings and reactions on these revelations.
So, it's going to be somewhat hard to stay clear on this because there's so many other things that are important to this. Born on Creche to one of the 10 families. They were the 10th family that has now been erased, and that's why we have the 9, not the 10.
Klein was considered to be a hero, a noble man, and he got bored and he wanted to go fix Arkan and make it for his precious daughter, Anila. Mm-hmm. But clearly everything went wrong to the point where now they've been erased from the history books.
Yeah. So Klein's doing that. Anila is a child. They go to Arkan. We've already seen them sort of discover the pools and Klein do his experiments.
And then become Hullen.
Yeah. And that Anila becomes Hullen and she is different. And we know from seeing it being shown in present and shown in past that she has a very unique connection with the green.
Talks to her.
But also that she has this very unique connection to the green that no other Hullen do. But that the plasma doesn't work on her the way that it works on everybody else because it doesn't perfect her. And it doesn't kill her. And by perfection, she sees the part that she's lacking is she still has emotions. Mm-hmm. That is why she isn't perfect. Because she has the strength. She has the rejuvenation aspects.
The immortality.
Yep. But she still has emotions. She's still connected to the world through those things.
It's a fascinating thing because she is not connected to the green in the way others are, but she also is more connected because it talks to her. Mm-hmm. It does not talk to anyone else.
It's a reciprocal relationship with Anila.
But there is a division.
Yes.
There's a divide.
Mm-hmm.
Unlike with Klein and others that we've seen.
Yes. She has abilities with it that aren't controlling it the way that Klein did, or even the way that Davin can.
She's doing her Red 17 experiments to try and crack this because she's not even talking about just herself. She's saying it's not working as perfectly as it could be. She thinks that she could make it better for all of humanity. And Klein's just like, whoa, calm down. I'm the scientist for one. I think it's fine. And she's like, oh, daddy, I can fix it.
The lady.
Yes, mentions of the lady. They're worried about the lady finding out about these things.
The lady can never know about those experiments about Dutch.
Mm-hmm, about that, yes, because these memories from Anila's brain that Klein hacked out of her head so that she wouldn't remember these things, so the lady can't get in them when she connects to the green, because the green is all about connecting memories. That's what makes so much sense when Sabine last season says the Hullen are so fascinated by Klein because he's outside of the green. We don't know what his deal is because he literally has cut himself out of it, which is pretty gnarly stuff. So we have those Red 17 tests, and she is performed in a certain way by Hannah John-Kamen as well, in which she's not as maniacal and crazy and detached as we see Anila currently.
No.
She's cold
and we discussed
and amoral.
This in our reaction of, is this the truth? Or is this because she was genuinely different? Or is it a mix of these things and also because these are her memories? So they are influenced by her perceptions of these things.
When Klein had to concede that Anila was his daughter, he had this statement said about, why do you think children aren't turned into Hullens? Why do you think people who are young aren't turned into Hullens? Because their brains can't handle it. That's what happened to Anila, and she's crazy. And we were both like, well, Neela's a full-grown adult for a start, so that's a bit weird. And he just said, oh, it made her quite mad. What do you make of that now that we have these flashbacks or these visions of things? Because in my perspective, it seems like the actions he took in this episode cranked her up to the level of insanity that we would recognize as insane for a Hullen, because what she was in those experiments is similar to what Klein was like in the first 2 seasons of this show, amoral.
It's indisputable to me that him holding her prisoner in the box deteriorated her mental health significantly and led to her engaging in these behaviors in a more extreme way because she was essentially left unsupervised.
And she can't
He was
develop.
just like, well, if she's in this box, she can't do anything. And he was wrong.
This is your fault, you know. I missed you so much.
I visited it as often as I could.
No. I missed who we used to be. Before everything went wrong. Before Arkin. Don't you?
She comes out of this experience where she's clearly lost her mind a bit, but she also has more wisdom than Klein. Like, she says to him at the end of this episode, like, she has a sense of regret. Like, don't you wish we could go back to what we were before all of this? Like, we actually had desires and hopes and dreams and things we were wanting and needing. But now, because we're these Hullen creatures, none of that matters anymore. And he gives her this filthy, disgusted look at that.
Yes, I was like, what? Because he is removed from that. But Anila giving him Dutch reconnects him with it.
And he can't take accountability.
No.
He can't take what she's saying, because if he did, he would have to take the accountability and responsibility for failing as a parent. And he can't do that. He can't do that fully. He can say, Anila failed, hence I had to put her away. Anila's a failure, so she has to be the bad wolf and Dutch has to be the good wolf.
Yep. It's just that simple. But we know that it's not in reality, that it is more complicated and it's also more meaningful.
She does have an addiction to the green. Like, it calls to her, the lady, the green, whatever it is. That is a concern. That is a reason, a justifiable reason, for Klein to do what he does, whether you think it's a good one.
It seems like he's justifying it as this is rehab.
I visit as much as I can. What are you doing, buddy?
Yeah.
What are you doing for these hundreds of years? Getting pieces in place. Terrorizing the Nine, of course, because they screwed me over. Like petty things. That's the indication of what he's been up to, as well as important things, I guess. But we have to talk about how Anila copes when she's in the box. Her solution for the withdrawals from the green and all of the
Make
stuff
her
that comes...
own.
Yeah.
She makes her own. She slowly builds up a bath of green by stabbing herself in the back of her neck, assumably collecting some drips from her brainstem, spinal cord, something like that, so that she can get back into the goo. She cannot deal with being disconnected. It calls to her.
It reaches out.
And she has access to it inside of her. So she can never be rid of it. It's not an external thing.
And what we get from this as well is she is using it not for, at least how it's presented in this episode, not to like talk to the lady or connect to the green in the way that Klein was worried about. She uses it to relive her life in a physical way, to go back in time, in a manner of speaking, and see how things became the way they are.
And just the writing of the Peach being there and Klein being like, who's visiting you?
I have my own secrets.
And then it's not until after that we get the reveal that she can pull things out of her own memories, and that's what Dutch is.
People can put things into the green.
Yep.
People can put them. We've been told that the green
only Anila
can take them out. Because of what reasons? We don't know.
Nope.
It's a mystery still. Even for the Hullen, even for them. That's why they're monitoring her. That's why they put up with her.
They've kept her around this long.
They don't even know about Dutch. They don't even know that level of her powers. That's the mystery. That's why her brain's been chopped up. Because if they knew, holy fuck, what could happen then? Right? That's the question. What could happen? So she and the Peach, that's like a test. And the episode doesn't even say this. You can just intuit it. That's the thing I love about this episode is there's so much gray area here to play in. And that's one of them is the Peach that Klein grabs from the young Dutch is the Peach that, Anila is playing with in her room in the cube. Like, that's cool. Like, that's neat. The episode doesn't get into it, but, like, you can draw the lines between those things. But the thing that everyone needs to know, Rachel, is your opinions on Dutch's traumatic origin story and how it is directly connected to Anila.
Yes. So Anila kidnaps herself from her own memories and then starts to raise herself and then escapes prison to then get herself adopted by her own father.
Why does she escape them?
Because you touched on the conversation that she has with Klein about, like, don't you wish that you wanted something to go back to the before? And that is what Dutch is. Dutch is from a memory from before they were Hullen, before they left Kresh, when life was simple.
And when experiences could be had.
Mm-hmm.
Now that these are mortal, godlike, alien, parasitic host creatures, that no longer exists. Like, we said so often during the first season that Klein almost had like a vampiric sensibility to him. And this just hits on that very much. Like so many immortal creature stories, like your vampire stories, hit that where because they live, because they endure, they no longer have purpose. They no longer have a drive, experiences anymore. Everything is frivolous.
And I find it fascinating that Dutch was so involved with this all, obviously unaware of it, and that knowing all of this, Klein was still willing to maybe but turn her Holland.
It was a countermeasure.
Yeah.
Because he's still that guy. His fatherhood is still a story to him. Like, it matters. Like, he was willing to kill Dutch because she's this abomination, and if the lady found out, all hell would break loose. But when given the chance from Anila,
he takes the do-over.
He takes the do-over, but he can't truly follow through on it in the way that Anila was hoping him to do.
I've been saying a bunch that Dutch is a do-over for Klein. I just didn't know yet how right I was.
And it's a do-over for Anila.
But she doesn't get to know that.
Because that's taken from her, because it has to be. Another element that I absolutely love about this is Klein and his obsession with stories. And that you can't fix the world with your stories. And he just disregards that always. It's always his go-to, because even though he's like a practical man, there's something about him in which reality is too difficult. It's better to dress it up in stories.
You can learn better from a story.
Did I ever tell you the story about the boy with 2 wolves in his heart?
You can't fix me with stories.
We now know Dutch's origin story. What does that give you about her character? Because this has been the thing of the show, is what is the deal with Dutch?
Why does she look like Anila? What does this mean?
And why is she so special?
Yes. And what was her connection to Klein? And we knew that, like, Dutch was like, yeah, Klein was my father, probably, but I don't quite understand how. And having that confirmation of, yeah, Klein's her father because she is this spin-off version of Anila.
She's an echo.
And that it hurts Anila to know that she's been replaced, and the fact that she doesn't know that she's the one that created her replacement.
We're already kind of talking about like how this gives us more context and a finer understanding of Anila as a character, which is good to hear. And I'm sure we have more to say, but I just want to keep going back on Dutch. Like, Dutch is our main character. Dutch has been a character that has had a lot of examination by the show, but this has always been the thing in the background. You're waiting for, like, how is this all going to tie together? Like, are they going to reveal?
As soon as we saw Anila.
Exactly. It's like, okay, we need to know that. But even from episode 1, there's something special about Dutch, and we just don't fully know what it is. Now, here we are, just over the midway point of the show, and they laid the cards out on the table.
Yes, but it doesn't feel like it's the whole picture yet. Because we've got that bit dangling in the background of the lady. Like, what is that? How does this fit into it? Because I'm not satisfied that this is going to be it for the stuff with Dutch and Anila. It feels too important for this to be...
Well, they have to confront each other about it.
Yeah. But I feel like there's got to be more to it, because it's... but I don't know if we will get the explanation of how and why Anila has the power to bring herself out of her own memories.
But what you're talking about is exactly what I think is the purpose of this, which is I do think, in a way, they've laid all the cards out on the table of what is the deal with Dutch. But now it is about...
What's the deal with Anila?
Oh, no, not even that.
No?
I was going to say is now we know what do we do from here.
What does this mean?
What does this mean? But also, what do we do from here? Because we even see Dutch's wedding night and how she meets Johnny in this episode. Like, we get all of these answers, things we've heard about or things that have been vague. And her character, for us, the audience, and for herself, has been about the sins and the mysteries of the past. Now we know what those are, why those are, and so does she. What do you do?
How is she going to choose to deal with them? And right now she's running.
Exactly. That's exactly it. See, I think that's the interesting thing about this is, okay, when you make this move, because this is the thing, other shows do what they're doing here in this, but they string it out for the entirety of the show. Hence, you at the beginning said you got answers to things that you thought you would perhaps never get answers to. Because this is the nature of this type of storytelling. But in this, they, again, take the more interesting move and just say, fuck it, we're going to tell you what the thing is. Now, there's still, strands
which I feel
that
like
we
I
don't
should be
know.
less surprised with, because I also thought that they were going to take several seasons to deal with Davin's shit. So
yeah, sometimes they just get to it. But as we finish here, let's hammer in and talk about Anila. She's not actually in this episode. She's only in
flashback.
memories, her own memories. And we've been saying all of this stuff about like what it is about her character, how we feel about it. But to put a bow on it, what do you get out of this episode when it comes to, I don't want to say humanizing the villain, but definitely giving them a dimension?
Because it is doing a lot of things, and it's making her messier, but also clearer, and it gives you things, but also like in answers, but questions, and you still don't understand everything. You kind of said a similar thing of, it does feel like you have all of the pieces now. Like, you understand what this jigsaw is. But you also don't.
You don't know what the picture is that you're putting the jigsaw piece together, but you have the pieces.
Yeah, you can see how all of the pieces might join up. You've got it laid out. But what it's going to look like is still uncertain.
Of course, on our rating system of Yum being bad and Yum Yum being good, this is...
Yum Yum.
You said it for both of us.
Yum Yum.
Thank you all so much for listening along. The name of the next episode of Killjoys for Season 3, Episode 8, it's a fun one.
Ooh, yes.
We're back to a fun episode. And everyone, make sure to come on over to our YouTube channel or our Patreon to watch our reaction for this next episode, because I'll share an important story about this episode. But it is Heist Baby. Yeah. Yeah. We're back to the fun names. Rachel. Heist Baby. What do you think will be happening in Heist Baby?
Oh, a heist?
Baby?
Maybe.
Any thoughts? Any thoughts of what could be happening in this next episode, or after this episode, what do you think could be happening in the future of the show?
First guess, there's going to be a heist to try and get on board Anila's ship. I think that there's going to continue to be repercussions of Turin's choices and him being held in custody. I think Dutch is not going to be on Lucy. I think she's going to go back to Arkin. I wonder if Johnny is going to have a moment where he's torn between staying with Davin or going with Dutch. What else do I think might happen in Heist Baby? I think they're going to do an actual title drop.
Okay. Do you think Anila is going to be doing anything specific in the episode herself? You're talking about them doing something to Anila.
Yeah,
but what do you
maybe.
think she's doing? Because we do have that as a B plot often.
Yeah, true. That would make sense.
But what do you think?
Yes, I do think that they're going to have a B plot or an A plot with Anila. Maybe dealing with Dulcea's pregnancy, because they didn't touch that this episode.
No. Dulcea wasn't even talked about, really.
Mm-mm.
And in terms of the bigger picture of the show, this episode is a big picture episode. So what do you make out of it? What do you think could be happening in the grander story? Do you have any harebrained predictions, big things, little things? What do you think?
I think the lady is going to look like Anila for some reason. I think it's going to be a third role for
Hannah John-Kamen?
Yeah.
But she'll have a different type of braid or something?
Yep.
She'll have pigtails? Oh, you have to have a different type of hair
Yeah.
style. We got to see the origin of Anila's braid.
Mm-hmm. I think that Klein is going to be resurrected somehow eventually. Or there's going to be, maybe not like him, but a version of him. Maybe also pulled out of the goo. Like she did with Dutch. I do think that they're gonna win the war in the end, but I don't think all three of them are gonna make it out alive.
Okay. Any bets on who dies?
My instinct is to say Johnny, because he's the heart, and Dutch and Davin may have each other, but they will forever feel guilty that they've lost Johnny.
Rachel's really, really going hard on the Johnny Must Suffer arc of the show.
The show is too.
The show is too. That is our discussion of The Wolf You Feed. Thank you again, as stated, for being here, listening along. If you have the means to support the podcast, head on over to Patreon. We release our content over there early, as well as those reactions in full, unedited, and a whole back catalogue of bonus material. We've been talking about a whole bunch of things. Recently, I watched the Pride and Prejudice miniseries for the first time, and I talked about it with Rachel. We also finished off watching The Ghosts, the UK comedy series, and there's so many things. A huge back catalogue. We've got Star Trek discussions, movie discussions, everything's there. Head on over to Patreon, Yum Yum Podcast.
I feel like we should do an Australian thing again soon. We've been doing a lot of American and UK stuff.
That's fair. How about we do a
But
German
if you
thing?
want to contribute to that discussion, you need to be on the Patreon Discord server.
Could you wrap us out? Tell us where other places we can be found and all that?
Nice and easy. Just go to the description of this on whatever podcatcher you are listening to this episode on, and our links to our various social medias are there. But if for some reason you feel like searching, we are under yumyumpod or yumyumpodcast. Email address is yumyumpod@gmail.com.
Don't forget to rate, review, and share the podcast about. It would be greatly appreciated if you did. But the final thing to ponder, something to think about here, okay? Something to consider in this.
Yes?
Okay. So I've been finding a lot of our ponderings go back to Fancy or Turin in this season. A little bit of Alvis too. Alvis was in this episode.
Yes, he was.
By the way, Alvis was in this episode. Congratulations, Alvis. But I want us to ponder
He was still
this.
wearing a shirt.
In the flashback, we saw young Johnny.
Yes.
And they made Aaron Ashmore look
Coiffed
young by
and a jacket.
I want you to ponder this. Do you think they gave Aaron Ashmore a hairpiece for that? Or do you think they actually coiffed his hair up? Because I don't want to speak ill, but I think it's a piece. I think they put a piece in.
Yeah, I do too.
And he looked like he was a big fan of the early to mid 2000s emo goth rocky period. Which band do you think Johnny was listening to? My Chemical Romance, Green Day, or
Fallout
Boy? Which of the three do you think young Johnny was listening to? Rachel, do you
Or
have it?
Panic at the Disco.
Or Panic at the Disco. That's the other one I always forget. Out of the four, which one do you think he was a fan of?